Lily Rodriguez dragged the broken metal panel behind her, leaving a trail in the red dust of Terra Nova. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange that reminded her of better days. She was 11 years old and carrying scrap metal that weighed almost as much as she did. Her back hurt. Her hands had blisters. But she needed the money. The salvage yard would give her maybe 5 credits for this panel. 5 credits meant 1 meal for her and her mother. It wasn't much, but it was something. Ever since her father died, trying to fix the colony's water system, every credit mattered. Terra Nova was dying. Everyone knew it. The crops wouldn't grow anymore because of some disease in the soil. The machines that were supposed to fix the air kept breaking down. People were leaving every week, heading back to Earth or to other colony worlds where life was easier. That Lily's mother wanted to leave too, but they didn't have enough money for the transport ships. So Lily collected scrap metal. She did odd jobs. She tried to help however she could. She was pulling the metal panel past the old repair station when she heard the sound. It was like thunder, but the sky was clear. The ground shook under her feet. Lily dropped the metal panel and looked up that a ship was landing. But it wasn't like the small transport ships that usually came to Terra Nova. This ship was massive, big enough to block out half the sky. It was dark red, almost black, with scales carved into its hull. Lily had never seen anything like it. The ship landed about half a mile away, near the empty fields where nothing would grow anymore. Lily picked up her metal panel again and kept walking, but she was curious. Who would come to a dying colony in a ship that big? She got her answer an hour later. Lily had sold her scrap metal and was walking back home when she saw them. They were huge, easily 15 feet tall, walking on 2 legs but built like the dragons from the old stories her father used to tell her. They had scales that looked like stone, wings folded against their backs, and eyes that glowed faintly in the growing darkness. There were 5 of them, walking through the colony like they owned it. The colonists scattered, hiding in their homes. These were Draken, the dragon people who controlled this whole sector of space. Lily had heard about them, but never seen them before. Most people were afraid of the Draken. They were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. They were strong and proud, and didn't care much about species they considered weak. Lily should have been afraid too. But she had a problem that needed solving, and one of these dragons looked really strong. She had been trying for 3 days to move a collapsed building. 3 kids were trapped inside, children whose parents had died in an accident last month. The building had fallen on their shelter, and Lily could hear them crying inside, but she wasn't strong enough to lift the debris. She had asked other colonists for help, but everyone was too busy trying to save themselves. They were packing up, getting ready to leave Terra Nova forever. Nobody had time to help 3 orphan kids, but this dragon looked strong enough to lift anything. Lily walked up to the largest dragon. He was bigger than the others, with scales that looked like gray stone and eyes like molten gold. He was studying a broken water pipe, talking to the other dragons in a language that sounded like rocks grinding together. Lily reached in her pocket and pulled out her money. She had 15 cents left after buying food yesterday. It was literally all she had in the world. She walked right up to the giant dragon and held out the coins. "Excuse me, sir," she said. Her voice shook a little, but she kept going. "I need help moving something heavy. This is all I have, but I can pay you." The dragon stopped talking. He looked down at her. His golden eyes were as big as Lily's whole head. For a long moment, he just stared at her. The other dragons stopped too. They all turned to look at this small human child offering their chief 15 cents. Lily kept her hand out, holding the coin steady. Her father had taught her that when you needed help, you asked for it. And when someone did work for you, you paid them. That was just how things worked. The dragon chief reached down with one massive claw. His hand was so big that Lily's whole body could have fit in his palm. Gently, carefully, he took the 15 cents from her hand. The coins looked impossibly tiny in his grip. "What do you need moved?" he asked. His voice was deep, like an earthquake, but he spoke perfect human language. Lily felt hope rise in her chest for the first time in days. "There are kids trapped under a building," she said. "I've been trying to dig them out, but I'm not strong enough. Can you help me?" The dragon chief looked at the coins in his hand, then back at Lily. Something changed in his eyes, though Lily was too young to understand what it meant. Show me, he said. Lily started walking, and the most powerful dragon chief in this sector of space followed behind her, carrying 15 cents in his massive hand. Granite Scale had conquered 17 worlds. He had led 40,000 warriors in a battle. He had negotiated treaties with species that most dragons considered too primitive to notice. In his 300 years of life, he had seen almost everything the galaxy had to offer, but he had never been offered payment for manual labor. He followed the small human child through the dying colony, still holding the 15 cents in his hand. His war council walked behind him, confused and silent. They kept looking at each other, trying to understand what was happening in dragon culture. There were clear rules about how different species interacted. The strong conquered the weak, or they ignored them. Sometimes the strong helped the weak out of charity, which brought honor. Sometimes they exploited the weak for profit, which brought wealth. But this was neither. This child had approached him as if he were a tradesperson, someone who could be hired, someone whose labor had a price. The concept was breaking Granite Scale's brain. Chief, one of his warriors whispered in their own language. Why are we following this human child? Granite Scale didn't answer. He was too busy thinking. The child led them to a collapsed structure near the edge of the colony. It looked like it had been a small house once, but now it was just broken concrete and twisted metal. Lily stopped and pointed. They're in there, she said. 3 kids. I can hear them sometimes, but I can't move the big pieces. One of Granite Scale's warriors stepped forward with a scanning device. After a moment, he nodded. 3 human children, alive. Ages approximately 5 to 8 years. The structure is unstable. Manual excavation would be dangerous for humans. Granite Scale looked at the rubble, then at the coins in his hand, then at Lily. How long have they been trapped, he asked. 3 days, Lily said. Their parents died in an accident at the mine. Nobody else would help because everyone's leaving the planet. But I promised them I'd get them out. You promised them? Granite Scale repeated. Yes, sir. I said I'd find help. Lily looked up at him with complete trust in her eyes. That's why I came to you. You look strong enough to move anything. Something in Granite Scale's chest felt strange. It took him a moment to realize what it was. This child had no idea who he was. She didn't know he was the chief of the Stonewing clan. She didn't know he commanded fleets that made entire planets surrender. She just saw someone strong who could help, and she had offered him everything she had to pay for that help. 15 cents. Everything she had was 15 cents. Move back, Granite Scale said quietly. He handed the coins to one of his warriors and approached the collapsed building. His scanners showed him exactly where the children were and where the structure was weakest. He positioned himself carefully, wings spreading for balance. Then he lifted. The main beam came up slowly. Concrete cracked and fell away. Metal groaned. Granite Scale's muscles strained. But he had lifted starship components before. This was nothing. Support the left side, he ordered his warriors. They jumped to help, using their own strength to stabilize the structure. Within minutes, they had created an opening. 3 small human children crawled out, dirty and crying. Lily ran to them immediately, checking them for injuries. You're okay, she kept saying. You're okay now. I told you I'd get help. The children clung to her. They were all younger than Lily, all scared and alone in a dying colony. But they were alive. Granite Scale carefully lowered the structure back down. His warriors stepped back, looking at their chief with new confusion. They had just performed a rescue operation for 3 human children on a planet they were only surveying for military use. This was not normal dragon behavior. Lily walked back to Granite Scale, still holding the smallest child's hand. She looked up at him and smiled. It was the first real smile Granite Scale had seen on this sad planet. You did good work, sir, she said seriously. She reached out and shook his claw with both of her tiny hands. That's worth way more than 15 cents. I'm sorry I couldn't pay you properly. Granite Scale stared at her. You think you underpaid me? Well, yeah, Lily said. You saved 3 lives. That's important work. But 15 cents is all I have right now. Why get more money? I could pay you the rest. One of Granite Scale's warriors made a choking sound. Another turned away, his shoulders shaking. They were trying not to laugh, but not because this was funny. It was just so completely outside their understanding of how the universe worked. Granite Scale took the 15 cents back from his warrior. He looked at the coins for a long moment. The payment is acceptable, he said finally. The job is complete. The contract is fulfilled. Thank you, sir, Lily said. She gathered the 3 children and started leading them away. Come on, guys. Let's get you cleaned up and fed. Granite Scale watched them go. The small human girl and 3 even smaller children, walking through a dying colony toward an uncertain future. His warriors waited for orders. They were supposed to be surveying this planet for a military outpost. They were supposed to be deciding whether this world had strategic value. Instead, their chief was holding 15 cents and watching human children walk away. Chief, one warrior finally asked, what are your orders? Granite Scale closed his massive fist around the coins. Return to the ship, he said quietly. We need to talk about what just happened. None of them understood it yet. But Granite Scale knew that something important had occurred. Something that would change everything. A child had treated him like an equal. She had offered fair payment for fair work. She had shown him dignity in poverty, honor in desperation. She had shown him something his entire species had forgotten was possible. The walk back to the ship was silent. Granite Scale kept the 15 cents in his hand the entire way. The command chamber of the Dragon warship was built for war councils and strategic planning. Tonight, it was being used for something completely different. Granite Scale senior warriors sat in a circle, all of them staring at a small display case in the center of the room. Inside the case were 2 coins. 15 cents in human colonial script. I still don't understand, Copperwing said. He was younger than the others, barely a century old. Why did you accept payment from that child? Granite Scale didn't answer immediately. He was still trying to understand it himself. She offered everything she had, he said finally. Not as charity, not as tribute, as payment for services rendered. But you're a chief, another warrior said. You don't perform labor for payment. You command. You conquer. You rule. Exactly, Granite Scale said. And that's what makes this so important. He stood and walked to the display case. The coins looked absurd there, surrounded by weapons and battle honors from dozens of campaigns. In our culture, we have 2 ways to interact with weaker species, Granite Scale said. We dominate them, or we ignore them. If we help them, it's charity that they should be grateful for. If we take from them, it's conquest that they should accept. That's how it's always been, Copperwing agreed. But this child showed me a 3rd way, Granite Scale continued. She didn't beg. She didn't grovel. She didn't try to manipulate me with pity. She approached me as if I were a person who could be hired. She offered fair payment for fair work. The warriors were quiet, thinking about this. She treated you like an equal, one of them said slowly, even though you could have destroyed her entire colony with one command. Yes, Granite Scale said. She has no power, no strength, no wealth. But she has dignity, and that dignity allowed her to stand before the most powerful being she'd ever met and negotiate a fair transaction. He picked up the display case and held it up to the light. I've been thinking about this all day, he said. We dragons pride ourselves on strength and honor. But what is honor if it only exists between equals? What is strength if it's only used to dominate? You're saying we should trade with weaker species? Another warrior asked, skeptical. I'm saying we should consider it, Granite Scale said. That child taught me something. True strength includes the ability to engage fairly with those who have less power. The discussion continued for hours. Some warriors thought Granite Scale was overthinking a simple interaction with a child. Others were intrigued by this new philosophy. But all of them agreed that something unusual had happened. While the dragons debated philosophy, Lily was dealing with more practical problems. The colony administrator had just announced the final evacuation date. 2 weeks. Everyone had 2 weeks to either leave Terra Nova or be left behind forever. Lily sat with her mother in their small apartment, doing math on a broken tablet. We have 400 credits saved, her mother said quietly. We need 3,000 for 2 tickets on the evacuation ships. What about 1 ticket? Lily asked. No, her mother said firmly. I'm not leaving without you. And I'm not leaving without you, Lily said. So, I guess we need to earn 2,600 credits in 2 weeks. Her mother laughed, but it was a sad sound. Lily, honey, that's impossible. Maybe, Lily said, but I have to try. The 3 children she had rescued were staying with them now. The colony didn't have an orphanage, and nobody else wanted to take them in. So Lily's tiny apartment now had 5 people in it. Lily didn't mind. She had promised to take care of them, and she kept her promises. The next morning, Lily started working. She offered to repair things, move cargo, organize supplies, anything people needed done. She charged what she thought was fair, usually just a few credits per job. Some people paid her. Some people didn't. But she kept working. What Lily didn't know was that Granite Scale had ordered his warriors to monitor her activities. They watched from a distance as she worked 16-hour days. They watched her split her earnings with the 3 orphan children. They watched her collapse from exhaustion and then get back up to keep working. She's going to kill herself, Copperwing said, watching the monitors. She can't possibly earn enough money in time. No, Granite Scale agreed. She can't. But watch how she tries. Over the next week, Lily earned 847 credits. She was still 2,153 credits short, with only 1 week left. But she didn't stop. She kept working, kept trying, kept hoping. The dragons watched and learned. They saw how Lily negotiated prices, always trying to be fair to both sides. They saw how she refused to cheat people even when she was desperate. They saw how she worked harder than most adult humans, driven by the promise she had made to her mother and the children. This is the human concept of dignity, Granite Scale explained to his council. She would rather work herself to death than beg. She would rather fail honestly than succeed through deception. It's going to get her killed, one warrior said. Perhaps, Granite Scale said. Or perhaps it's going to teach us something we should have learned a long time ago. He stood and walked to the communications station. Contact the human colony leadership, he said. Tell them the Draken Imperium wishes to negotiate a trade agreement. His warriors stared at him. Chief, Copperwing asked, what kind of trade agreement? Granite Scale smiled, showing rows of teeth that could bite through starship hull plating. The kind where we hire humans to work for us, he said, at fair wages, based on their own economic standards. That child taught me about fair payment. Now I'm going to show my people that this concept has value. You're doing this because of 15 cents? A warrior asked, disbelieving. I'm doing this because 15 cents taught me more about honor than 3 centuries of conquest, Granite Scale replied. Now let's see if we can save a dying colony while we're at it. The human colony leaders didn't trust the dragons. Why would they? The Draken Imperium had a reputation for conquest, not cooperation. When Granite Scale's message arrived, requesting a meeting to discuss employment opportunities, most people thought it was a trap, but they were desperate, so they agreed to meet. The negotiation took place in the colony's administrative building, which was really just a large prefabricated structure with a leaky roof. On one side of the table sat 5 human representatives, including the colony administrator and Lily's mother, who had been invited as a medical consultant. That on the other side sat 5 dragons, each one large enough to bite a human in half. Granite Scale started the discussion by doing something unprecedented. He pulled out a document written in both dragon and human languages. This is a proposed employment contract, he said. The Draken Imperium requires technical workers, engineers, and maintenance specialists for our fleet. We are prepared to hire humans for these positions at fair wages based on human economic standards. The humans looked at each other, confused. You want to hire us? The colony administrator asked carefully. Not conquer us? Not enslave us? Hire you, Granite Scale confirmed. With written contracts, payment schedules, working conditions, and time off. All documented and agreed upon. This was completely unprecedented in dragon culture. Dragons didn't write employment contracts. They issued commands and expected obedience. The very concept of negotiating working conditions was strange to them. But Granite Scale had been thinking about 15 cents for over a week now, and he understood something his ancestors never had. Fair exchange required clear agreements. Why? Lily's mother asked bluntly. Why would you do this? Granite Scale considered how to answer. He could explain the strategic benefits of having skilled human workers. He could talk about resource efficiency and long-term planning. But those weren't the real reasons. Because a child taught me that fair payment for fair work is a form of honor I had never considered, he said simply. The humans didn't understand, but they listened as Granite Scale outlined his proposal. Humans would work on dragon ships, maintaining equipment and providing technical expertise that dragons often lacked. In return, they would be paid wages comparable to what they would earn in human space. They would have contracts protecting their rights. They would be treated as valued employees, not conquered subjects. The negotiation continued for hours. Lily's mother asked detailed questions about medical care for human workers. The colony administrator pushed for better housing conditions. The dragons, following Granite Scale's lead, negotiated in good faith. They were making progress when the door burst open. Lily walked in, completely unaware that she was interrupting formal diplomatic negotiations. She was carrying a handmade poster advertising her services. Hard worker, available. Fair rates. Honest labor. She saw the dragons and humans sitting at the table and stopped. Oh, she said. I was looking for people who might need help moving stuff. Then she recognized Granite Scale and smiled. Hi, she said cheerfully. I didn't know you were still here. Do you need more help? My rates are on the poster. The room went completely silent. Every human turned to stare at Lily. Every dragon turned to look at Granite Scale. The most powerful military leader in this sector of space was being offered employment by an 11-year-old human with a homemade poster. Then Granite Scale did something that shocked everyone in the room. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the windows and made dust fall from the ceiling. Lily Rodriguez, he said, and she jumped a little at hearing her full name in that massive voice. I have a job for you. Really? Lily asked, excited. What do you need? I need a human advisor on fair payment practices, Granite Scale said. Someone who can help me understand what humans consider appropriate wages for different types of work. Would you be interested? Lily thought about it carefully. She looked at her poster, then at Granite Scale, then at the contract documents on the table. What does the job pay? She asked. What do you think is fair? Granite Scale asked back. Lily considered this. Well, my mom makes 50 credits an hour as a senior medical technician. This seems about as complicated as her job. So maybe 50 credits an hour? One of the human negotiators choked on his water. 50 credits an hour was an excellent wage, especially for a child. But Lily had named a price based on the complexity of the work, not her age or desperation. The Granite Scale nodded. Acceptable. You're hired. Wait, Lily said. I should probably see the contract first. My mom always says to read before you sign anything. Granite Scale gestured to the documents on the table. These are the contracts we're negotiating. Your first job is to review them and tell me if they're fair. Lily walked over and started reading. The adults watched in amazement as she went through the contract line by line, asking questions when she didn't understand something. After 20 minutes, she looked up. There are some problems, she said. The human negotiators tensed. The dragons leaned forward. You're offering maintenance workers 30 credits an hour, Lily said, pointing to a line in the contract. But maintenance workers on Earth stations make 45 credits an hour because the work is dangerous. You should pay more. Granite Scale made a note. Agreed. What else? Here you're offering engineers 200 credits an hour, Lily continued. But the work description says they're just doing routine diagnostics. That's only worth about 120. You're offering too much. Now the humans were really confused. Lily was arguing both sides, trying to make the contract fair for everyone. It should be fair both ways, Lily explained when she saw their faces. Otherwise, it's not a real deal. If one side gets cheated, even if they don't know it, the whole thing falls apart eventually. Granite Scale looked at his fellow dragons. They were all staring at this child who understood fair exchange better than most adults of any species. Copper Wing, Granite Scale said to his youngest warrior, you'll be Lily's student. Learn everything she can teach you about human economics. Copper Wing bowed his head. Yes, Chief. The negotiation continued with Lily's help. She found 3 more places where the dragons were offering too little and 2 where they were offering too much. Every time, She explained her reasoning clearly and suggested fair alternatives. That be why, the end of the day, they had a revised contract that both sides agreed to. Every human who wanted to work for the dragons could do so at fair wages with clear protections. The colony was saved. 3 months had passed since the contracts were signed. Terra Nova looked completely different now. The dying colony had transformed into a thriving hub of human-dragon cooperation. The fields still wouldn't grow crops, but that didn't matter anymore. Hundreds of humans now worked throughout the Draken fleet, earning good wages that they sent back to their families. The colony had enough money to import food and supplies. People who had been ready to abandon their homes were now building new ones. Lily had become something unexpected. She was officially Granite Scale's economic advisor, working 20 hours a week at 50 credits an hour. But her real job was much bigger than that. She had become a bridge between two completely different cultures. Every morning, she went to the Dragon warship to teach Copperwing about human economics. Every afternoon, she helped resolve disputes between human workers and Dragon supervisors. Every evening, she studied, trying to understand more about trade and fair exchange, so she could do her job better. She was also famous. Throughout Dragon space, she was known as the human who paid the chief. Young dragons studied her original transaction with Granite Scale as an example of dignity and fair dealing. Some dragons thought it was foolish to take economic lessons from a child. Others were fascinated by this new way of thinking. The changes rippled outward. Other species in the sector heard about the Draken Imperium hiring humans instead of conquering them. Some were skeptical. Many were shocked. A few were hopeful. One morning, Lily was working in Granite Scale's command chamber when Copperwing brought her a problem. "There's a dispute in Engineering Base 7, he said. "The human supervisor says the dragons aren't following safety protocols. The dragon supervisor says the protocols are inefficient." Lily sighed. This was a common problem. Dragons were incredibly strong and tough. Things that would kill a human barely bothered them. So they often didn't understand why humans needed so many safety rules. "Let me talk to them," she said. Engineering Base 7. She found a human woman named Patricia arguing with a dragon named Stoneclaw. The bay was filled with massive engines that powered the warships faster than light drive. "The regulations say 2 people must be present when working near the reactor core," Patricia was saying. "Your workers keep going in alone." "Dragon workers," Stoneclaw rumbled. "We don't need supervision. We're not fragile like humans." Lily walked between them. "Can I see the safety protocols?" she asked. Patricia handed her tablet. Lily read through the regulations carefully. They had been written for humans working on human ships. Many of them didn't make sense for dragons. "Okay," Lily said. "Patricia, these protocols are designed for humans. Dragons are different. They don't need the same protections." Patricia started to argue, but Lily held up her hand. "But," she continued, turning to Stoneclaw, "humans and dragons are working together in this bay. So we need safety rules that protect everyone. Can we write new protocols that make sense for both species?" It took 2 hours, but they did it. The new protocols kept humans safe while acknowledging that dragons had different capabilities. Both supervisors agreed it was fair. This was what Lily did now. She found ways to make things fair for everyone. Word of her skills spread. Soon, she was being asked to consult on contracts throughout the Dragon fleet. A trade agreement with a mining colony. A technology exchange with a research station. A food supply deal with an agricultural world. Lily reviewed them all, always looking for the same thing. Was it fair to both sides? She turned down more money than most adults would earn in a lifetime. When a dragon merchant offered her 1,000 credits to approve a contract that would cheat human workers, she refused. "The contract is unfair," she said simply. "I won't say it's fair when it's not." The merchant was angry, but Granite Scale backed her completely. The word spread quickly. Lily Rodriguez couldn't be bought. Her opinion on fairness was genuine. One day, Granite Scale called her to his private office. "I want to show you something," he said. He led her to a display case she had seen before. Inside were 2 coins, 15 cents. "I keep these here," Granite Scale said, "to remind me of the day my entire understanding of the universe changed." Lily looked at the coins. She barely remembered offering them. That day felt like a lifetime ago, even though it had only been 3 months. You gave me everything you had, Granite Scale continued, and asked only for fair exchange in return. No begging, no manipulation, just honest transaction between two beings. You treated me with a dignity I didn't know was possible between such different species. I just needed help, Lily said, embarrassed. You were strong enough to help. It seemed fair to pay you. Exactly, Granite Scale said. You didn't see a mighty chief or a terrifying warrior. You saw someone who could do a job, and you offered to pay for that job. That perspective changed everything. He opened a drawer and pulled out another document. This is a proposal I'm presenting to the Dragon High Council next month, he said. I'm suggesting that the Draken Imperium shift from a conquest-based empire to a trade-based alliance. Instead of taking what we want, we negotiate for it. Instead of ruling through fear, we partner through mutual benefit. Lily's eyes went wide. That's huge. It's revolutionary, Granite Scale agreed. Half the council will hate it. They'll say I'm weak, that I've forgotten what it means to be a dragon. What will you tell them? Lily asked. That Granite Scale smiled. I'll tell them that true strength includes the ability to deal fairly with those who have less power. I'll tell them that we can be mighty and honorable at the same time. I'll tell them that a child with 15 cents taught me more about civilization than 3 centuries of war. He looked at Lily seriously. And I'll tell them that if we want to survive in a changing galaxy, we need to learn that there's more than one kind of strength. The strength to conquer is impressive, but the strength to cooperate, to trade fairly, to build mutual prosperity, that's the strength that builds lasting empires. Lily thought about this. Do you think they'll listen? Some will, Granite Scale said. Others won't. But change doesn't happen all at once. It starts with one person seeing things differently, then another, then another. Eventually, the whole culture shifts. He picked up the display case with the 15 cents. It started with you, Lily Rodriguez. You showed us a different way. Now we have to decide if we're brave enough to follow it. The Dragon High Council met on their home world, a planet of mountains and volcanoes where the air was so hot it would kill most species. Granite Scale stood before 200 of the oldest and most powerful dragons in the Empire. Ready to present his proposal, he brought Lily with him. Many of the council members were outraged when they saw a human child in their sacred chamber. But Granite Scale had insisted. If he was going to talk about fair exchange and mutual respect, he needed to show what that looked like. You want us to abandon conquest? One ancient dragon roared after Granite Scale finished his presentation. You want the mighty Draken Imperium to become merchants and traders. I want us to become partners, Granite Scale replied calmly. I want us to be strong enough to choose cooperation over domination. That's weakness, another council member shouted. Is it? Granite Scale asked. He gestured to Lily, who stood quietly beside him. This child approached me 3 months ago. She had no power, no weapons, no leverage. She had 15 cents. She asked for help and offered to pay for it. That took courage I've rarely seen from warriors. He held up a display case with the coins. She treated me as an equal, even though I could have destroyed her entire world. She showed dignity in poverty, honor in desperation. And she taught me something crucial. There's strength in fairness. There is power in mutual respect. The debate raged for hours. Some dragons agreed with Granite Scale. Many didn't, but they all listened when he presented the results. Under the new system, human workers had generated more wealth for the Empire in 3 months than 10 years of occupation would have. Other species were approaching the dragons for trade agreements instead of waiting to be conquered. The Empire's influence was growing faster through cooperation than it ever had through war. But what about our warrior traditions? One council member asked. What about our pride? Lily raised her hand. Every dragon in the chamber turned to look at her. She was terrified, but she had promised Granite Scale she would speak if asked. Can I say something? She asked quietly. Granite Scale nodded. The council recognizes Lily Rodriguez, economic advisor to the Stone Wing clan. Lily took a deep breath. I don't know much about dragon traditions, she said, but I know about being proud. My dad was proud. He died trying to fix the colony's water system because he was too proud to give up. That kind of pride is good. It makes you work harder and do better. She looked around at the massive dragons surrounding her. But there's bad pride too. The kind that makes you think you're too good to learn from others. The kind that makes you hurt people just to prove you're strong. The kind of pride doesn't build anything. It just destroys. The chamber was silent. Chief Granite Scale is still proud, Lily continued. He's proud of being fair. He's proud of building something that helps everyone. That seems like better pride to me. An ancient dragon in the back of the chamber spoke up. Her scales were white with age, and her voice carried centuries of authority. Child, she said, you offered our chief 15 cents for manual labor. Did you understand what you were doing? I needed help, Lily said simply. He could help. I had 15 cents. It seemed fair. You treated him as a tradesperson, a hired worker. I treated him like someone whose work had value, Lily corrected gently. Someone who deserved to be paid for what he did. Isn't that respectful? The ancient dragon was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a sound like an avalanche. The child is right, she said. We have been so focused on being respected through fear that we forgot we could be respected through fairness. I support Chief Granite Scale's proposal. The vote wasn't unanimous. Many dragons still opposed the change, but enough agreed to make it official policy. The Draken Imperium would begin establishing trade relationships alongside their military presence. They would offer employment instead of conquest. They would negotiate instead of dominate. That IT was the biggest shift in dragon culture in 1,000 years. After the vote, Granite Scale found Lily sitting alone in a corridor, looking exhausted. You did well, he told her. I was scared, Lily admitted. I know. You spoke anyway. That's courage. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lily asked the question she had been wondering about for months. Why did you really accept my 15 cents that day? You could have just helped me. You didn't need the money. Granite Scale thought about this. Because you offered it, he said finally. You had nothing, but you insisted on paying your way. That showed me something about humans I had never understood. You have dignity that doesn't depend on strength or wealth. You believe that everyone deserves fair treatment, even when you're desperate. He looked at the display case he still carried. These 15 cents represent everything I want my people to become. Fair, honorable, strong enough to be gentle, powerful enough to be just. Lily smiled. That's a lot of meaning for 15 cents. The best things often come in small packages. Granite Scale said 6 months later, Lily stood in the rebuilt Colony Plaza and watched ships come and go. Terra Nova was thriving. Humans and dragons worked side by side. Other species had established trade posts. The dying colony had become a symbol of cooperation. Lily was now 13. She still worked as an economic advisor, but she also went to school and played with friends. She had earned enough money to secure her mother's future and help dozens of other families. The 3 children she had rescued were like her younger siblings now. Sometimes, visiting dragons would ask to meet the human who paid the chief. Lily always felt embarrassed by the attention, but she understood why it mattered. One young dragon warrior asked her the question she heard most often. Why did you offer payment that day? Didn't you know he was powerful enough to refuse? Lily gave the answer she always gave. Sure, but that wouldn't have been right. If someone does work for you, you pay them. That's just how it should be, even if they're strong enough to refuse. Especially then, Lily said firmly. Anyone can take from the weak. It takes real strength to be fair. The young dragon thought about this and nodded slowly. Across the plaza, Granite Scale watched the exchange and smiled. The 15 cents were still in their display case on his ship, but their lesson had spread throughout the empire. Not everyone had accepted it yet. Change took time, but it had started. One small gesture of dignity had sparked a revolution in how an entire species saw the universe. Granite Scale thought about all the wars he had fought, all the worlds he had conquered, all the glory he had won. None of it mattered as much as the day a desperate child had treated him with simple human fairness. The strong could always dominate the weak. But it took wisdom to realize that cooperation built more than conquest ever could. IT took courage to trade the sword for the contract, and it took a child with 15 cents to teach an empire what civilization really meant.